What's up, comic and pop culture fans? Today we're doing a statue review for a character that has one of the best theme songs of all time. And a theme song that's totally not a ripoff of Jimi Hendrix's Wild Thing.
Swamp Thing, you are amazing. You fight everything nasty.
Before we do the review, we're going to do a little history of Swamp Thing. But before we do that, I just want to make a quick note. Please hit that like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. And I'm actually going to be submitting a couple Swamp Thing books to CGC. This guy, Swamp Thing number 9, this could actually get a 9.8, maybe a 9.6. Not this one, but this is Swamp Thing meets Batman for the first time. Pretty cool. Little history on Swamp Thing. He first appeared in House of Secrets 92. And he also wasn't Alec Holland. He was first Alec Holland, the botanist scientist that eventually was blown up in a swamp, which is how he was created into this in the actual pages of Swamp Thing comics. Now, Swamp Thing's important because it had some great Len Wein art, and it was returned to kind of a macabre. It was very dark and gritty, and when Alan Moore took over as writer, it really pushed the grittiness, and actually, it's one of the best books in DC you can possibly read. It deals with loss, existential crisis. It's just amazing, and without getting, too much into spoilers, this is not Alec Holland. This is Swamp Thing. In the pages of this book, he realizes that Alec Holland is in fact dead, and he was just kind of a plant recreation of Alec Holland.
I am so sorry. This is Alec Holland. This thing is what I am. Alec Holland is dead.
And how they deal with that is really, really cool. And how he decides to be a hero even after that. Great character, one of my favorites. I could actually probably do a whole video on this book, but Gem Mint kind of did a great video, so I'm going to leave that one to him. Now we're going to dive into his review, and we're going to start with Sculpt. So, maybe you've already seen, we are looking at a perfect sculpt here, guys. This is amazing. The details they put into everything, they pushed themselves. Now, this is Sideshow's Maquette, which does work with the premium format line, so it is 1/4 scale. And how they fit this much detail into a 1/4 scale, I'll never know. Especially his backside. So, I don't even know where to start. I guess let's start. We're going to save the base for the base category. So let's start with his feet. Look at the tendrils they did on his feet. His toenails. Oh my gosh. Follow up his leg. He's got like fungi. He's got all these vines going all over his legs. It looks wet. They, I guess, used a sort of gloss over it. They went ahead. It goes all the way up to the top. If you look on the back, there's, I don't even know what you would call this. I want to call it like barnacles, but I know it's not. Popping out all over his back. He's got all these spikes popping out over his shoulders, and they did a really good job of even making some things come out, which is dangerous, especially to ship this thing. And it did come in one piece, guys. There's no switch out head sculpt or anything like that. It's one piece. So the fact that they were going to do all this and it didn't break is amazing. So we'll talk about that in design. But sculpt, it's perfect. I mean, he kind of looks like the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Davy Jones. He absolutely looks amazing. You can see his ears here, all the vines coming out of his head, and he has that signature Swamp Thing vagina face, which is, you know, a thing. He's got those awesome red eyes. They did such a good job. They're not light up, but they look light up. I can't say enough good things about this sculpt, guys. This is a 10 out of 10. Next category, paint. I'm excited to get into this category because it's another 10 out of 10. It really is. There's no overpainting anywhere. You'll be hard pressed to find it. I've looked all over this thing. Everything is perfectly in between the lines. And I think it's because it's such a dark and green thing that they wanted to get the parts right, and they did. So how they made sure to differentiate his fingers and make his tendrils pop out and everything, and the difference with his fingernails and his spikes and the variations they put in between the brown into the green. It looks amazing, guys. They also used a glossy paint. Everywhere you look, it has a shine to it because he should be coming across as wet. He's just a big old green wet vagina man. Honestly, I'm most impressed with the paint even on the back, I would say, which is a shame that if you don't have a Lazy Susan, there's no way you would ever be showing this from the back. But if you look at the back, I mean, the sculpt was already there, and then they just decided to push it even more. Now, this is clearly based on Swamp Thing's original appearances. This is not the new 52 looking guy. I wouldn't want a statue of that, but there is the statue of that. That's his more popular look, actually. And Prime 1 actually did a solid looking Swamp Thing. It is, I believe, 1/3 scale. This is 1/4. But I like the more classic look, the more Len Wein art and Alan Moore writing style. You know, this fits that. Look at the paint on the little alligator snapping turtle they've got down here chilling. Look at his eyes. Look at the differentiations they did on his spikes. What a nice detail. They added a snake right here. So cool. Paint, 10 out of 10. Guys, I'm excited to get into the design because it's another 10 out of 10. It really is. So the design, the thing that worked the best for me is the fact that he came in one piece. There's no gross neck seam or anything like that on this because they opted to do it in one piece. It's absolutely perfect. The base is a little bit big, but it needs to be big, and it is heavy to support this dude. And let me tell you something, this statue is so heavy. It's probably in my top 5 heaviest statues that I have. How they perfectly have this backdrop coming over right up to his calves, how they have these sort of like stalagmites and stalactites things coming out of the swamp, the turtle, the snake, the amazing job on his feet, the clear resin they decided to use to make it actually look like water, like he's splashing in a puddle. I feel like I'm looking at a ridiculous private custom work, but no, this is Sideshow at its best, and nobody has this statue. I think there's like 2 other reviews on YouTube. Why does nobody have this statue? It's infuriating. 10 out of 10. Good job, Sideshow. Now we're going to get into pose. Now, pose, he's kind of lunging forward. Not lunging, he's striding forward. I think it's really cool. It definitely reminds me of Swamp Thing. He looks like he's coming out of the woods, really creepy-like. The only slight thing you should know, he kind of has to be displayed a little bit high. He's looking and arching a little bit down. Kind of reminds me of their Killer Croc. And I think because of that, you want to have him high. So that's a slight knock when it comes to how you have to display it. But like I said, it gains all its points back when you look at it. Looks good from any direction. You can put this thing anywhere. It looks great. And this is a great piece to have on a Lazy Susan rotating around. So guys, we're going to go a 9 out of 10 for pose, simply because it does have to be up a little bit high. That can be a problem for some people, but amazing. Now we're getting into the base. Beautiful clear resin they used here. Really looks like he's coming out of a puddle. The beautiful backdrop here, it looks like a woodland scenery. It's just absolutely perfect. It really looks like the bayous of Louisiana. I love the addition of the snake here. He blends in pretty well. He was almost hard to see the first time I noticed him, but he looks great right there. The alligator snapping turtle, I think, was a random but welcomed huge win for this piece. It looks really good, adds to the base so much. If you spin the base around, you've got all the vines coming up into the trees and into the woods here. It really looks like you are in the swamp here. And they captured it just so well. It's just perfect. Guys, the base is a 10 out of 10. You'll be hard-pressed to find a more impressive base than this statue. You can quote me on that. 10 out of 10. Now we're going to go into colors. Guys, this statue really is black, brown, and variations of green. So what can you do when your statue is all that? Well, you add little resin elements. You add little yellowy greens to make eyes pop out. You add reds to make his eyes pop out. You differentiate the vines from the rest of his body. I can actually see where they went ahead and made sure that the vines are like a brown, whereas like his regular arm is green. In between his fingers, they made sure to change up those colors so that the right things pop. They really wanted to show his hands all like bony and weird and vegetable-y. They did a good job of making sure that even though they have a very limited color scheme, that it still works. So I think this is an example of a statue that did the best with what they have. Still, it can get a little bit muddied, and if you look at it from far away, it can appear a little bit like it blends together. So you have to really get up close and see those details. For that, we're going to give this a super solid 9 out of 10. And now we're going to talk about the likeness, which is pretty much one of my favorite categories, because this is another shining example of matching a character that I love. Like I said, this is the early Swamp Thing appearance, and I love that they opted to do that route. In the older appearances, he was more tenderly, he was more classic horror looking, which is the version I like better, and it's the version they went with here. It's very, very Swamp Thing, and it does help that I just finished Swamp Thing, the show on the DC network, which was a big win. That was a great show. Now, if you know anything about Swamp Thing, he's a kind of a weird hero because that he's heroic when he wants to. He is really the protector of this entity called the Green. Him and Poison Ivy both have that, if you're curious.
You claim to serve the Green.
The plants are my babies.
So why treat them as slaves?
He protects nature. He cares about nature. And that's why I think the addition of this turtle and the snake really help with the concept of this piece and the likeness, because he would be caring for these creatures in the real life. He cares for all living things, sometimes even humans, even though he doesn't love to admit it. I love the size and the presence this guy demands. It's a serious statue. It's going to be a staple in your collection for sure. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 10 out of 10 for likeness. Up next, we're going to talk about proportions. This is Sideshow's Maquette, meaning it's not a premium format, but it does work with that line. Ironically, I would have maybe made him a little bit taller even. He is tall, but you can tell he's very hunched over. If he wasn't hunched over, you'd be seeing his full height. It's a weird thing to complain about because he is one of the tallest pieces I have in my collection. I wish he could borrow some of Darkseid's height. That guy's just a tad too tall. One thing you should know, with the proportions, the base is very deep. It's a very big base. It's over 12 inches, and it's a little bit on the wide side, so you have to have some room for this guy. He's going to demand some space, and I say that it's worth it. So, we are going to give his proportions a 9 out of 10. I feel bad because most people would give this a 10 out of 10, but like I said, I wish he was just a tad taller. All right, and now we get to go into the coolness category, meaning when you walk into a room, is this statue cool? Yeah, this statue's really cool. Like, really cool. This is one of the coolest statues I have. It is a freaking badass. Look at him. He's ridiculous looking. It's absolutely... you know what? This could be the coolest statue I have in my collection. Now, I'm also going to be honest about something else. This statue didn't sell me off of the pictures online. For whatever reason, this looks way better in person than it does in pictures. And sometimes that happens with statues. And this one is no exception. This didn't blow me away online. I was seeing too much of the green, and I wasn't seeing all the details. I don't know. I thought it looked flat. And now I've got in my hands a 10 out of 10 after 10 after 10. Like, it's just, this is amazing. Coolness, 10 out of 10. Easily. We're going over the price. This guy's price was $800. Now, this is the collector's edition. There was an exclusive edition with this hand of the Unmen. Guys, if you have this head, I will do ridiculous things to own this. Clearly, the exclusive must have sold out quick, because I can't find this anywhere. I want it. If you have it, I will buy it. Thank you. One of the reasons I was sitting on the fence for this for about a month was simply because that deluxe edition was gone, and I really wanted that extra character there. But I ended up getting him. I think he was still about $800. Now, an $800 statue for what you get here with this crazy base, the amazing effort that they put into the actual sculpt and paint and concept and everything, guys, it's worth it. And the weird thing is, I don't know anyone else who has this. I don't know anyone else who has this. And it's a Sideshow piece. I don't understand. I know he's not very popular. He's not a super well-known character. But with the show and everything, that might change. You're going to want to get this because I have a feeling when they all sell out, this may skyrocket. So, for price, we're going to go 10 out of 10. Guys, this was a lot of fun for me. I've had this for almost a year now, and, I always appreciate them, but when you get them on the table and you really get to look at them, I got to appreciate them even more. So, my final score is a very respectable. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for voting on Swamp Thing. If you want to vote on the next piece I'm going to review, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I'll put a link above. And stay tuned, because I am going to be submitting this guy to CGC, and I'm really excited to find out what the grade is. So guys, I hope you go out and get this right away while you still can, because this piece is just amazing. Thank you to everyone who's been so supportive of my channel. It's just been so much fun, and I've learned so much. Yeah, you guys are the best. I love this community. Stay tuned for more statues and reviews. This is Min Under Comics, and keep on collecting.
Swamp Thing.